I just don't think that he has thought through these arguments too much, because it doesn't seem like he's there to provoke. He seems a little bit too good-natured, if that makes sense. He just seems ignorant to the arguments that he is making and how bad they are. Like, this is not a good argumentation. And again, I find myself in the position where I would be able to defend meat eating a lot better than the people that argue Ed. And I don't eat meat. Well, is this one of my best debates? You got me from friend of the show, from Earthling Ed. Alright, let's go. And maybe we should turn this up. And
I kick a dog, and that dog cowers and makes a whelping noise.
You know what? You got me in the corner, man. You got me in the corner.
Okay.
Good shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, nah. You got me in the corner. Good debate,
that.
dude. I fucking fell off, dude. I used to debate for high school. Fucking fell off. You got me in the corner.
Thank
I just
you.
have to admit. Yeah, like at this
that.
point,
that's many fist bumps for getting him into a corner.
I can't fucking keep grinding my gears. Good shit, guys.
Also, Earthling Ed is like the one guy you really do not want to debate about this stuff. Like, if you eat meat, and for the time being, I guess that's fine. But if you do eat meat, and you want to discuss that, or debate it, then Earthling Ed, this guy, he's like really not the guy that you want to debate about it, because he's very trained in this. I have a campaign against the Swedish YouTuber Pontus Rasmussen, who has a weird relationship with his mom. Oh god. I'm gonna have to check that out. Please send me a link on Discord to this stuff, and I'll check it out at some point.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you too, boss.
Thank you so much. My name is Ed, and today I'm at the University of Arizona, which is in Tucson, Arizona, of course. And I have a banner that says, "Give me your best argument for not being vegan." You very kindly sat down, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So let me know what your response is to the banner in question.
So this is a very fun argument that.
This is one of the things that, if I ever were to speak to Earthling Ed, what would be interesting to ask him is actually, what would you say is the like least bad argument against veganism in your opinion? That's what I want to know.
My dad has been telling me to go vegan, it's because he says, meat takes more time to digest, where it's not made for you, this and that. But at the end of the day, honestly, eating meat, barbecues, it brings me happiness, man. So, and at the end of the day, I think of it like, if I'm not going out and hunting an animal, I'm going to Walmart. Now that meat's already there. It's been, it's whatever. It's a whole industry, meat industry, and I buy meat because I love meat. I love to barbecue, so it brings me happiness, and that's why I feel like as long as I am not physically, it brings me happiness, and
Well, there's two arguments there, isn't there? The first is happiness. The second is the meat's already there. Why is the meat there?
The meat's there because it has been killed before.
And why have they been killed?
Because there is a
Is he referencing the supply and demand thing now?
large portion of the population, I guess, that likes...
Okay, so I just want to make something very clear. I don't know if you guys ever saw the Demon Mama Vegan Gains debate, where they talked about supply and demand, and Demon Mama's chat were going off the rails, being like, oh, he's such a moron, he's such a lib, he's talking about the supply and demand. And the thing is, we live in a liberal society where supply and demand is actually a thing that you have to take into account when talking about these kinds of things. So the fact that there is a demand for a product creates the supply for the product, and vice versa. So the fact that we live inside of the capitalistic liberal society that we already do, that makes supply and demand a real issue. And also the fact that one of the things that socialists, and I've used this myself, usually go by is thinking that the individual has fairly little power in and of themselves, whereas together we can make systemic change, and systemic change is better than the small individual scale change. Now, I would agree to some degree with that. However, there are some studies that show that if you do not buy chicken, you can actually help save a lot of chickens by just you alone not eating chicken. But that's a whole different thing. We can get into that on a different time, at a different time. Sent you a DM. You can also check my streams on him if you understand Swedish, so you get the context. And yeah, I'm on a crusade now. Well, you know what? I wish you all the best of luck in your crusade against the guy with a weird relationship with his mom and children. Yeah, I understand Swedish to some degree. I'm going to assume that I understand Swedish to the same degree you understand Norwegian, more or less. So yeah. But yeah, vegans. You can save a lot of chickens unless everybody else starts eating more. Yeah, that's true. But it's something that I can't remember the study off the top of my head. Maybe you've seen it. It's basically like if you do not eat chickens, you have like a 60% chance, let's say. Right now I'm pulling the numbers out of my ass, basically, but it's something to disagree. Let's say you have like a 50 or 60% chance. Like I said, I can't remember exactly, of being like the one customer that makes it so that about 900 chickens are saved. I think Rose Wrist was the one that showed the studies in one of his streams when he was talking about the Demon Mama vegan gains debate. So while I would say that there is definitely merit to the thought that we aren't that we're not able to save everything or save the world on an individual level, I think it goes hand in hand, you know. For example, when I was a vegetarian, I've recently turned vegan, for those of you who don't know, but when I was a vegetarian, I used to say that, yeah, sure, individual change won't do much, but individual change can first of all help changing systems over time. And also, I think that if you become a vegan and you only stop eating meat, you do not advocate for things, you don't do any form of activism whatsoever, you don't talk to people about it, you just stop eating meat, then yeah, or any animal products, then yeah, you will probably not change much. However, if you pair that up with the activism, and you pair that up with political activism, in the sense of like trying to get through a party that maybe advocates for animal rights and whatnot, then those two, the activism of you being a vegan and doing activism, combined with political power, will more easily make political shifts, or larger systemic shifts, I should say. My friend gave me a link and the end of my birthday and said, "Oh, this wasn't a mistake. You're the worst one." All right, let's go.
To eat meat, you know?
Yeah. And so what happens when we buy that meat?
When I buy that meat, I am contributing to
Yeah, it's going after the supply and demand thing. When you buy the meat, you create a demand for the meat.
Basically, you know, when I pay for it, that money goes to their industry and they use it however, you know, I'm assuming to make more meat, make more profits eventually.
I mean, it's supply and demand, isn't it? You're familiar with supply and demand?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's all it is in action, isn't it? The animals are dead there, obviously, but when we pay for it, we're demanding for our purchase that more be supplied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're contributing to more animals suffering as a consequence of that. You said about happiness. Should our happiness come at the life expense of others? Exactly.
So yeah,
So this one is a fairly normal argument from Ed and from other vegans, I think, that so what we get from eating meat is a sensory pleasure of a couple minutes, let's say half an hour tops. Now, is that half hour worth the entire life of a cow or a chicken or a pig or anything really? And vegans would say no, and so would most people, I think, if they got the opportunity to think a little bit more about it, because people don't see it that way, and so that's why it's important to sort of bring these arguments to light.
so that's the thing, right? How do you know if the animal's happy or not? You don't know really, right? So, and because it's now, I mean, it's kind of like,
Wait, this guy was on a debate team? That's pretty bad. That's a bad argument. That's a Descartes argument if I've ever heard one. I learned today.
we can't assume that every person out here right now around us is happy,
Nice mustache, yeah.
right? You would say that we all have like an equal opportunity to be happy, or
should.
we should, we have the resources and this and that, but at the end of the day, every personal circumstance is different, right? Which eventually may leads to our happiness or not. So I feel like, so the question, should our happiness come before the animal's happiness? I genuinely think, why not? Because at the end of the day, you have no guarantee.
The advocacy doesn't even have to be very overt. Back in my flexitarian days, I was once with friends and we ate pizza. They were about to throw away pizza slices with meat on them, and I went, hold up, I'd rather eat them than see them go in the trash. And that little thing made one of my friends really aware of how much food he threw away and made him change his habits. Yeah, that's or change their habits, I guess. That's basically it. So that's what I'm talking about with the vegan that goes vegan and talks to no one about it. You don't have to do a hardcore advocacy round with every one of your family members in order to do some advocacy. And my example is, or my way of doing it is basically telling people that, okay, so how many days a week do you feel like you need to eat meat? Or how many meals a day do you feel like you need to eat meat? Like you feel the need to do it. And if they go oh, well, dinner, well, okay, well, only eat meat for dinner. Then you can have peanut butter on your bread when you're at work, or you can go for some jam or whatever. So just small things, and I think that's also important for people, because when people eat meat, they might think that going vegan is extremely daunting. It can be a very hard task to just cut out all animal consumption overnight. And I agree with that, which is why I was a vegetarian for 2 years. But you take it one step at a time. Going vegetarian is super easy, especially these days. And then you just slowly cut out one product after another, or one product for each meal or clothing that you buy or whatever. And suddenly you're there, and you've made conscious decisions over a period of time, and you've created yourself a new habit. And we are quite habitual animals, so as long as you just take it one step at a time, you should be fine, and every little step helps.
You're not actively showing me that this animal is happy.
Oh no. Well,
you know,
I mean, they're not happy. That's the problem, isn't it?
so
The question isn't whether or not our happiness should become before their happiness, whether or not our happiness should contribute to a system that causes them suffering and kills them. So shouldn't animals suffer and be killed?
That's a very nice catch of him. I actually didn't see that. Because when he says, well, you can't tell me, we don't know if the animals are happy. I went into that one going after like, well, we can know the animals are happy or not, but it doesn't really matter. The animal can be super happy, but we don't have to kill it.
For our happiness is the question.
okay, one more, I guess, like a counter question: would being a meat eating person be okay if they came up with a system that's entirely sufferingless, entirely sufferless? You know?
Oh yeah, probably would. Like, for example, Israel is working on the lab-grown meat thing, and I think that's a good thing.
These animals, let's just assume, these animals do not feel an ounce of pain. So, like, in that case, is being vegan okay? Being like meat eating, is that being a meat eater okay in that case?
Okay, so here's the thing: you can't get rid of the suffering, because the mass slaughter, it doesn't matter if they suffered hardcore through their life, really, because at the end of the day, they are still slaughtered. So that's the problem with its argument there. If you would go into would meat eating be okay if it's lab-grown meat instead, that would be a stronger argument for him to put forward.
Well, firstly, obviously that doesn't exist, so that's not what we're supporting. But second, even if it did, no, because animals still has to be killed for the products that we consume. So even if you found a way to raise them and kill them that was devoid of suffering, you're still killing them, and as a consequence of killing them, depriving them of living.
Sorry, I'm stopping this a lot, but I think it's a good thing that I have a lot of things to say here. So this goes sort of into the usual argument that, oh yeah, but I only buy meat from like local farms, which is interesting. I feel like a lot of people who eat meat come up with that argument. I feel like every person that I meet that eat meat, they try to spin it that way. Like, what if I only eat meat from local farms? Well, sure, that's a little bit better, I guess, but here's the thing. You come up with that argument, but yet still, while coming up with that argument, you make yourself more comfortable in the position that you are already having. So, and that will make it harder for you to quit eating meat. And also, I just hear so many people that say like, oh yeah, but I only buy ecological, or I only buy free-range chickens, or I only buy from local farms. You would think that from so many people that always say that when confronted with a vegan, that there wouldn't be any industrial farming. However, at the end of the day, the animals on these local farms that aren't industrial, whatever, they're also treated badly some of the time, and also they're also slaughtered at the end of the day. So no matter what you do, if you consume meat, you eat the flesh of an animal that never needed to die. So that's where we're at.
In a longer, happier life. So no, that wouldn't work. But also, it's important to recognise that that's not what we're supporting. But just to ask that question again, should our happiness be viewed as more important than the suffering and life of an animal?
I don't think anybody's happiness should be, more important than the suffering and life of an animal. But at the end of the day, it's the circle of life. Sure. You feel me?
What does that mean?
So the circle of what I mean by that is in the wild, right? Now, just an example. You have so there's actually this one Instagram page, the Dark Side of Nature, that I follow. So dude, these motherfuckers post the gnarliest of shit, bro. Yeah. Like, there's like a zebra being eaten, like a pregnant zebra, bro.
Okay, so Ed is probably going to counter this with saying, like, just because lions act a certain way in nature, does that have to mean that we have to act that way? Which is an argument that he has used a lot of times, and I think it's a good argument, because I don't think that animals in the wild argument is a particularly good one, because we are we are sort of outside of that whole system, in a sense that we have broken homeostasis. We don't have to do, like, we are no longer bound by the limits of our instincts, because we have advanced beyond that. So the question is, okay, so animals tear each other apart in the wild. Sure, and there's little we can do to stop that. But do we need to have to add on to that suffering by exploit animals ourselves?
Being eaten alive by lions, bro. Gnarliest of shit. I don't have the heart to watch some of it, bro, to be honest. But at the end of the day, that's what nature really is, man.
I mean, look, nature is gnarly, yeah. It's full of horrible examples of suffering and cruelty and harm. But even though that's true, does that mean that it's okay for us to cause suffering that we don't need to cause? Like, is it just because suffering exists, should we contribute to creating more suffering?
Oh, wait, that's a great perspective. So, so in terms of like suffering, right? So in this just this case, like, you know, should we kill more animals? You know, I feel like that question is framed in a way where you like, you know, you don't want to support animal suffering. You don't want to see these cute animals being suffered, but at the end of the day.
Okay, so let's see. Don't know why you're not showing up in the chat. So I have a friend that's watching and they are not showing up in my chats. Well. Oh well. Keep watching, please.
Hey bro, lamb is just tasty as shit. Like, I love mutton.
Yeah.
And but I mean, like, I feel like I'm not able to, you know,
Well, the thing is, you say that we don't want to support animal suffering, but you are. You're paying for it. The situations we're describing only exist because people like yourself pay for it.
But now let's say like mainly the meats that are consumed in America is beef, pork, and chicken. Let's say, right?
Sure.
Beef, pork, chicken. So beef, pork, chicken. These are three animals that, let's say we just stopped consuming them.
Yeah.
First of all, I feel like that would have negative repercussions.
So if an animal suffers in industrial agriculture, it then gets slaughtered, it's at least put out of his misery. But if an animal leads a happy life, a free-range farm or whatever, then gets slaughtered, like, even if the kill is completely painless and spontaneous with good. Yeah. So here's the thing. So I'm obviously not for industrial farming. I think that free range farming would be a preferable system to industrial farming. Now, with that said, it does get weird with the whole, because the situation is reversed, right? So if you take the industrial farmed animal and you take it to the slaughterhouse, you put it out of its misery, whereas the free-range animal, you take that one to the slaughterhouse. Well, then you inflict suffering upon an animal who didn't suffer in the first place. So that shows the grotesqueness a little bit better. So I definitely agree with you on that, and you can even do this example with a family dog. If let's say you ask your neighbor, whatever, let's say you get into a vegan debate and they do the whole free range animals, they live a happy life and whatnot. Then you say, okay, so what if I took your dog to a slaughterhouse right now and I put it down in order to eat it? Would you think that would be morally acceptable? The person would most likely say no, and then you would have to ask them, like, why not? The dog has had a happy life, so why is it bad that the dog is put down? I need to eat. It's the same thing, really.
repercussions for the environment because these guys would just be running amok.
Sure.
But I feel like at the end of the day, should we create more suffering for these animals? Like, no, that's wrong, right?
That's wrong.
But at the end of the day, being a vegan, trees, that's like, like that's a life.
Okay. Now we're getting into the interesting part. Every vegan has encountered this question, whether or not they were vegan, have been a vegan for a long time, or just turned vegan. They have encountered these arguments because they're quite usual to encounter. The difference between plants and animals. Yes, arguments. This guy has been on like a debate team or whatever. I struggle to figure out how. But the problem here is the sentience of the thing that you're killing. Nothing can survive without killing something else in some way. Nothing that we know of, at least. But we're not talking about life in and of itself. We're talking about sentience. So animals, as we know, have sentience, and they are able to understand, to a certain degree at least, what is happening to them. And like I said last time, when I'm saying animals, I mean non-human animals, but also humans. We don't always understand what is happening to us, but yeah. Even experienced debaters struggle to defend eating animals. Yeah, a good example of this would be Vosh, that ended up having to go, when he debated Vegan Gains, I think, he ended up having to talk about child slavery, which I think that argument could be posed in or child pornography. I can't really remember, but that argument could be made in a somewhat coherent way. But yeah, I think it was that debate he ended up having to go to that point, and it just shows me if you have to go to that point in order to prove your point, well, you don't really have a good point. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yes, sentience. Plants do not have a sentience, whereas animals do, to a more or less degree. Like, depending on the animal, you have more and more sentience, or a higher degree of sentience, I should say, which is like, I get the point that he's trying to make, but it. Well, let's just see how Ed handles this. He's probably gonna go down the same route as I just did.
Life, yeah.
That's a life.
Yeah.
Now, just because it may or may not feel pain or whatever, you're still taking a life.
Yeah.
Now the question now remains, like, at the end of the day, if a life is being taken, now all the question that remains is the part of suffering, right? Like, is that animal suffering when I kill it or not?
Well, that's not the only thing. Obviously, cells in our body are alive, but the act of taking an antibiotic to kill bad bacteria in our body is obviously very different to the act of killing an animal. And it's the same with plants. You know, plants are alive, but they're not sentient. At least not in the way that we perceive them to be. Yeah, closely aligned with the animals who we do consume. So whilst we are taking life,
at this point, I think I've seen so many videos that I can, based on the arguments that is posed to Ed, I am more or less, like, I feel like I more or less know exactly the way he's going to answer.
if we're still taking life that has the capacity to suffer less, and also the experience of life they have is very different. So whilst we could go up to a cow and shoot them in the head and they wouldn't suffer, that cow is still having a subjective experience of life that we're depriving them of. You know, let's say a dog who walks past. It wouldn't be moral to kill a dog, even if we do so in a way that doesn't cause them suffering. It's still immoral to kill, when we don't need to, obviously. So it's about choosing things that reduce harm, reduce suffering, and choosing to take life that experiences life in a diminished capacity compared to...
Whoa, this is interesting. Here he says it's about choosing things that reduce harm.
Reduce suffering and choosing to take life...
Hey, Pocket. Thank you so much for joining. Long time no see, indeed. I will hopefully try to be a little bit more regular with this. I will be streaming tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow is my set day, so I will be streaming tomorrow. So please, if you're in my Discord, please send me requests for things to cover.
That experiences life in a diminished capacity compared to other life that we currently choose to take. And then to kind of go back to...
Oh yeah, so this is the thing. He says that the goal is about... It's about reducing suffering. Whereas in the debate we watched the last time, he actually said that reducing harm isn't the goal. So maybe he's more in the mindset that I would generally be in during the filming of this debate. Maybe because that's not the same kind of argument that he's posed. I don't know.
To a couple of things that you had said kind of just before that. Now, the thing to remember, or to consider at least, is that the only reason we have all these animals is because we breed them into existence. So the logic that we're using right now, or that you've applied, is that we need to keep killing these animals, because if we stop killing these animals, we'll have to kill these animals.
We're almost at double digits, guys. Please send my stream to every one of your friends, and let's get into the double digits.
But the alternative is to simply stop breeding them into existence. And so the more that we breed into existence, the bigger the problem is. But if we stop breeding them into existence, this issue of overpopulation won't happen, because we simply won't bring these animals into existence in the first place.
I see. So one thing I kind of like caught on was, because you said that we're depriving. If I go up to a cow, shoot in the head, zero suffering, but I'm still depriving it of the life it could, potentially still experience. But then how is that kind of different from doing that to a plant? Now I'm taking its...
Because the plants do not experience things. This is the sentience. We're coming back to the sentience. The plants don't experience.
Or like any vegan organ is like, not vegan organ, that's kind of a weird term, but you know what I mean, that's not meat. So like you are depriving, I mean, we still know it has cells, it's...
and also, it's the fact that we can't not deprive things. Like, let's say that everything had experiences. We couldn't not deprive things. So in that case, I think that our sort of mission, I don't want to use that word, our responsibility would be to go to the lowest life form in terms of sentience that we could find, and go after that one instead of the ones that have a higher higher form of sentience. It would possibly still be cruel. It probably would, if everything had an experience, but that one we just couldn't get away from it. So that would be a necessary thing. So for example, when we're talking about usually people would pose quite extreme examples to get around the veganism part. So a somewhat usual argument is, okay, so say you're in a desert, you have a camel with you, the camel dies, or you realize, I think that would be more common to say it that way, you realize that you will not be able to survive unless you kill the camel and eat it. Like you realize that it's not an option for both of you to get alive out of that situation. What would you do then? And probably most vegans would then say that, well, in that case, you have to for your own survival. So that's the difference here. Do you have to eat animals for your own survival? Not really. Okay, so... But in that specific situation, you can be in a situation where you would have to eat people to survive. But that doesn't mean eating people is okay in every other circumstance. So eating plants is okay because they do not experience anything. But if plants suddenly were to start experiencing everything, they were to grow a consciousness, consciousness or sentience, let's say, and their sentience would be on par, let's say, with humans. Well, in that case, it would be very different. We could no longer justify eating that, and we would have to go back to scratch and see what is the lowest form of sentient thing. If everything alive has sentience, what is the lowest form of sentient thing that is possible to actually get nourishment from. A bit of a side note there. So, but yeah.
It has cells in its body, keeping it alive. It's taking in oxygen, giving out carbon dioxide, making food. It's got the whole 9 yards happening. So am I not depriving that of a life as well? I mean, see, all I'm saying is at the end of the day, we have to kill to eat.
Yes.
We're killing either plants or we're killing either animals.
Sure.
Right? So I feel like as long as it's not causing a significant problem, like like meat eating, as long as it's not causing a significant problem. Like there are some places who these fuckers are poaching sharks and shit who are already endangered. Guys, come on, don't do that,
Sure, you don't do that.
I would be interested to see, and I don't know if Ed is going to post this argument because he usually doesn't go down this road. This would be more of a vegan gains tactic, but okay. Let's say then that we in a village of 500 people, let's say they get a baby twice a year. Let's say let's say there are about how am I going to pose this? Okay, so would it be okay to kill and eat babies as long as it doesn't pose a huge problem to the population of humanity? And I would say no, of course it wouldn't be.
Yeah, come on, there's lamb, beef, beautiful fucking shit you can grill and all that, bro. Tender meat, juicy. You get where I'm kind of like, as long as it's not really, as long as it's not really hurting someone, actually.
That's ironic,
but
right?
It is hurting someone. Double digits, hey! We are up at double digits. Now let's get to 30. Let's get to triple digits. I mean, let's see if we can get up to 20 viewers today. That would be super cool. He almost seems like a troll. I just don't think that he has thought through these arguments too much, because it doesn't seem like he's there to provoke. He seems a little bit too good-natured, if that makes sense. He just seems ignorant to the arguments that he is making and how bad they are. Also, good night, Pocket. It's like his arguments are so bad. They are very bad. This is not a good argumentation. And again, I find myself in the position where I would be able to defend meat eating a lot better than the people that argue Ed. And I don't eat meat. I haven't been eating meat for 2 years. More than that. So yet still, I don't know. And I technically I don't know how. The reason I became vegan is, I think I said this last time, I just couldn't figure out a way to go around it anymore. It was impossible for me to find a actual good way of getting around that whole moral obligation anymore, and so I had to.
Suffering, yeah, it's ironic, it's suffering, but that's the thing. At the end of the day, even a vegan person's having to kill, But it's just about what you're killing.
Sure, absolutely is. But what we're killing is very important, because plants, okay. The first thing to consider is this. Even if we think that plants and animals are morally comparable, animals consume plants, right?
Okay.
So animals, by the virtue of having to consume, eat more plants than we do. Because you think about how much a cow eats.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think he was going to go down this route. All right. So yeah, what it's going to say now is that, spoiler alert, I'm guessing, we breed into existence so many animals, and they eat more plants than we do. We have way more land than needed in order to grow plant-based meat for every plant-based food, for every human on Earth. However, a lot of the land that we are using for farming is used to feed the animals that humans are consuming, way more than the plants that we eat, and even the plants that we need to eat. So it would be kinder even to the plants to stop eating meat
over their lifespan. So actually by being vegan we reduce the number of plants that are being killed as well. So even if we think that plants should be morally relevant,
I honestly didn't think he was going to take it this way, but it's an interesting rebuttal to what he was saying.
By being vegan we're still contributing to less plants being killed and consumed overall, because we're eliminating the 85 billion land animals or so who also are consuming plants at the same time. So
okay, we're back to single digits. I don't know what you guys did, but you made a mistake.
In and of itself, you've also made an argument to be vegan, because that reduces the amount of plants being harmed.
But then why are you kind of like against the circle? Not against, but like why are you just kind of like, you know, why interfere with that circle of life? Because I mean, God made, you know, apart from humans, God has a very nice system, you know, like animals eat, you know, like.
Is that nice?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful system, you know.
If I was a god, I wouldn't have created this system.
Why?
Because it's a system of violence and harm.
So you just want like what?
Wait, he just said earlier that he is unable to watch the videos of lions tearing zebras apart or whatever it was. But now that it's convenient for him to say that this is a beautiful system, now it's a beautiful system because the nature is working like a fine-tuned, well-oiled machine. Yeah, like I said, I just don't think that he has actually thought this through. And I don't think at this point, he can't even remember what he's been saying. This is really bad. I am starting to understand why Ed might think this is his best debate. Because it's not even because of his debate performance, it's because of the performance of the guy he's talking to.
What would you take out of this system, I guess?
Unnecessary suffering and harm. If I was a god and I could have created the world in any way that I saw fit, I'd have created a world where suffering and harm need not exist.
How do you know love without suffering?
Wait, what? How do you know love without suffering? First of all, if Ed was a god, or if I was a god, and I could do anything, so I could create a world where suffering need not exist, and now he's saying, how do you know love without suffering? Well, I don't know, but I think a god would be able to provide that, and an almighty god would definitely be able to make that a thing. So just because you don't understand it, because you live inside of this system, now we're talking about a hypothetical system that do not exist. Second of all, how do you know love without suffering? Well, have you ever had a dog or seen a child? Are you a father or whatever? You can have that without any suffering involved in it. You know you love it. You know it in your heart. It's a very like unscientific way to speak about it, but love is a fairly poetic concept anyway. But you feel it, and you don't have to experience suffering in order to feel love. That's a really weird point. Yes.
If there is no definition of pain, if there is no definition of suffering, if there's no definition of bad, there's no...
Wait. No one said that pain wouldn't exist. Even in that system, pain would be able to exist. Pain and suffering is not the same thing.
Definition of good. You have to have the other side of the coin.
No, I mean, I disagree, but obviously we're talking, we're going off on a tangent.
Huh?
But the circle of life you're describing, the circle of life purely means this. Everyone who's born is going to die. That's all it means. But it doesn't mean that we have the right to take life prematurely. You're going to die one day,
Yeah.
That's a fact of life.
Sure,
but
yeah.
someone's not justified to come up and kill you just because that's true. And so obviously everyone's going to die, but that doesn't mean that we have the right just to take life arbitrarily and unnecessarily. If we cannot take life, even though that life will one day die, it's still not right for us to take life when we don't need to.
But I'm just kind of like failing to see the double standard between plants and animals now.
Okay, so let's say you have two choices. One is to cut the throat of a pig.
It's very simple. But let's just see what it says about it.
And one is to cut the stalk of a broccoli.
Okay.
Is there a moral difference between those two things?
I am killing a living thing.
So is there a moral difference between those two things? No.
So you are telling me, I can't remember the name of the guy. So you are telling me you would have just as easy of a time cutting the throat of a pig, a human, or shucking corn. You are telling me those three things, it would be like a coin flip to you, which one you would rather do. I would see that as unlikely.
So what about killing a human and cutting the stalk of a broccoli?
Now that's two very different things.
Now, why is that different?
Now the reason is because I will not devour the human after that.
What? Let's say that you are devouring the human after that.
That means I am killing simply for the act of killing, which is very wrong. That means I'm murder at that point. Here I am killing to consume its to cook, to provide, nutrition to other people who will eat with me.
But you could cannibalize.
I'm not a cannibal,
Well, you could be. And if you were, would that make it okay?
So now it's going into ifs and buts. Cannibalism is.
What? Wait, what? You were the one putting forward ifs and buts in the first place. Jesus Christ, dude. What the actual fuck? This guy is so bad at debating. Like, his points are all over the place. He's unable to engage with the hypothetical posed to him, and this isn't like an otherworldly hypothetical. Cannibals exist, so technically, like, he could have been a cannibal. So it's like, oh yeah, but okay, so would you do that? And then he's like, well, this is ifs and buts, and well, yeah, just answer the question.
Is illegal.
We by the way, we know why he doesn't want to answer this question, because it's uncomfortable to be posed with this, because he has dug himself into a corner where, in order to stay consistent, he would have to say that yes, that is the same thing. He has no way out of that corner, so he have to say that it's okay, but he doesn't want to, because he doesn't think that it is okay to kill humans.
So now it's going into ifs and buts. Cannibalism is illegal. So I think we should.
I'm sorry, but law has nothing to do with this question.
Just entirely take that topic off the
But
table.
does legality equal morality?
I feel like we live in a world where we have to mold our morality according to legality.
Oh no, you have it backwards. We mold our legality according to our morality. It's not the other way around. So does this guy think it's morally okay to stone people to death in Saudi Arabia for being gay?
But does legality equal morality? Is something moral because it's legal, or immoral because it's illegal?
I feel your morals are the way you define it, right?
Okay, so but what do you?
What? That was a very weird answer to that question.
Think about the question I'm asking.
So yeah, kill the stalk of killing someone, and then a stalk of a broccoli. But that's what I'm saying. There's two very different incentives to do so.
But if you were to cannibalize, the incentive would be the same.
Let's say the incentive is the same. I'm a cannibal and I'm killing it.
So is it now moral to kill a human because we're going to eat them?
So now this is considering a world where everybody around me is also cannibal.
It doesn't really matter whether or not you are the only one or everyone is. Morals isn't really dependent on what is it? What's the fallacy called? argumentum ad populum. Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right, or doesn't mean it's correct. So that's a fallacy that he's about to engage in right now.
Not necessarily.
No,
It's
see,
just
that's the thing.
applying
Now
the
I'm an
logic you've
outcast.
used.
Now that's the different thing. Now I'm an outcast
But-
because not everybody around me is a cannibal.
But that doesn't mean that it's moral or immoral. You can be
You can be an outcast and do morally correct things. So for example, let's turn back the time to the 1940s or 1930s Germany. It would probably make you an outcast to be nice to your Jewish neighbor. Would that be morally wrong? Was it morally wrong for the people that hid Anne Frank's family in their attic? Or it wasn't a family that hid them in the attic, it was a company, wasn't it? It doesn't matter. That hid Jewish people in their attic. Descent doesn't mean that you're being immoral. That's my point.
an outcast doing a moral thing.
It's not a question about. I don't feel like it's a question about. See, interesting. So now, this is two very different scenarios, though. You know.
Now is it?
It's like you got a meat-eating guy.
I need to start doing the same thing as he is doing here, because this would give me so much pleasure.
Versus broccoli, and a whole human versus broccoli, but in the human versus broccoli case, I'm kind of like an outcast. You know, we're not living in a world of cannibals, and so.
But you could.
For me, no. Let's say, like I said, morality is defined by a person. So I would say that for me, morally killing, even if I'm a cannibal, let's say I'm a cannibal, right?
Yeah.
And then killing a person, a sentient human being who can
Yeah.
vocally express,
Yeah.
like
Oh, okay, so now it's down to the vocal expression of their pain. Have you ever heard a dog in pain, my friend? Or a cow, let's say, or a pig, or chickens. Did you know that the peeping of chickens that you hear when you see a video of a bunch of chickens is actually them calling out for their mother? Have you heard a pig squeal before? They do express pain, and they do express these feelings vocally. But you're talking about verbally language expression, which, okay, so is it okay to kill a baby then that isn't able to use language?
vocally in my language, not through actions or sounds and shit, can straight up tell me that I don't want you to kill me. I want to live another day.
Yeah.
You're taking that man's, will to live away. Now the cow thing, if we go backtrack.
But what if they don't speak English though? What if they speak Chinese and you don't understand it? It's just sounds and language. It's just sounds and noises again.
Oh, very interesting, huh?
How did he not see that argument come towards him? What? He must have known that argument was going to come up. That was like the easiest thing. Like, he gave Ed a fucking softball there.
I mean, so I would say, I'd get a translator, but let's just say they can't talk or
You get a alright.
nothing. I get where you're coming from.
Mute.
I don't know, dude. That's a very interesting perspective, but that's the thing. I just feel like we're comparing apples and oranges, you know?
Because, alright.
Not really, because the logic you use is that killing killing a pig and cutting a piece of a broccoli stalk is morally the same because it's about nutrition. And so you're saying, well, it's the same to kill a pig as it is to cut the broccoli because you're going to eat them. But then if I kill a human to consume them, it should. That's all right, don't worry. Then morally, it must be the same and comparable because it's taking life. But it's okay because I'm taking life to consume nutrients.
That means we're also drawing a parallel between like beef, lamb, and stuff, and a human.
I mean, yes. That's kind of the point about veganism. We do draw those comparisons. We do think that all animals, human animals, non-human animals, all should have the right to live without without being exploited. So yeah, that's part of the equation. Yeah.
You're the one who's drawing those comparisons by saying that it's morally justified to kill anyone if they're alive simply because you can get nutrients from doing so as a consequence of killing them.
I said we should an animal.
Yeah.
If I kill an animal.
Humans are animals.
Humans are animals, but there's a reason we've come to call ourselves humans now. You know, when we say
it's just because we have language and we distinct our own species from others because that gives us utility. It doesn't. It's nothing beyond that. But this is just tangential. At this point, he's grasping at straws. I think he knows that this didn't go very well for him.
Animals, like when we say animals to eat, we don't consider humans. It's understood humans are not
but
in
why?
that.
Why?
It's because you realize you have to take someone's life.
Yep.
Like unwillingly,
Yep.
Animals cannot convey that.
They can.
Like
they can make noises. They can fight to try and survive.
how do you know that's just vocal?
So if I kick a dog and that dog cowers and makes a whelping noise,
You know what? You got me in the corner, man. You got me in the corner.
I mean, this shouldn't have been this easy. Like, if this guy had come a little bit more prepared, I think that argument, just, oh yeah, if I kick a dog and it cowers, that wouldn't have put him off that bad. But I think that he has known for about 4 minutes now that he's on the losing side of this argument.
Okay.
Good shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, nah. You got me in the corner. Good debate, dude. I
That's too
fucking fell off, dude. I used to debate for high school. Fucking fell off.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you don't show that you haven't shown that you used to debate for high school.
If you got me in the corner,
Thank
I
you.
just have to admit, yeah, like at
Those were 3 fist bumps.
this point, I can't fucking keep grinding my gears. Good shit, guys. He got me,
appreciate
but
that.
I love meat. I
Okay.
love lamb. I love to barbecue. I'm like the type of guy. Today's a Saturday. No, today's a Friday, right?
yeah.
Saturday tomorrow, I'm gonna go up to the pool,
Yeah.
get a couple, 6-pack Coronas,
Sounds nice.
a nice lamb, and we're gonna be fucking grilling that shit. But
But is that a moral thing to do?
by tomorrow, 6 beers down, morality's gonna be out the window for me. No, I don't know, man.
It won't be out the window because
Nah,
you
but-
wouldn't rape someone, would you?
Oh, no.
So morality's
But,
not out the window then.
For me, me personally, killing an animal and eating it, I feel it does not go. It's not immoral.
But then morally justify it.
Yeah, justify it then.
Morally justified, I personally, while I contribute by paying to the killing of the animal, as long as I don't have to kill an animal with my own hands, I'm chill.
Wait, so you are putting it off on someone else, as long as someone else is doing the killing. Let's go back to the human then. Would you eat human meat? If it's actually interesting that Ed went down this route, because this is more of a vegan gains argument. But would you consume human meat if someone else killed it for you?
But why are they being killed?
Because I want to eat it, and
So they're being killed for you.
yeah, I guess you
So
could
you
say.
are paying for it.
Yep.
Yeah. So are you culpable?
I guess you could say for their murder, yeah.
So then how do you
100%
morally
I am.
justify it?
Why can't he just barbecue some vegan meat substitute? Well, this guy doesn't care about morality. Like, at this point, it's actually worse. Like, at this point, if he had ended it at this point, where he was getting kind of, like, nice, and just realized that, oh, okay, I 100% I lost this shit, then that would be the smart thing to do. If he didn't bring up the fact that he's going to eat meat tomorrow at a barbecue or whatever, but now, well, he's back into the corner.
Well, I guess maybe I don't. I just like to eat meat then. Maybe it's not morally justified.
Maybe not. So if someone enjoys something, that makes it okay?
If someone, ooh, so now we're getting into dangerous territory, dog.
Yes, it's a joke, because vegan meat is gay. God damn it. Oh no. Yeah.
Because if, there can be people who can enjoy a shit ton of weird stuff.
Exactly.
But then is it okay?
Yeah, it's fucking weird. Some people actually do have that mindset. Yeah. It's the whole, oh yeah, you fucking soy boys. Well, soy is fucking delicious. And also you don't actually get effeminated by it. That's a myth. What was he saying?
If someone, so now we're getting in the
Yeah, now you're getting into dangerous territory, but you've been in this dangerous territory all the time throughout your conversation. You just haven't realized that's where you're at.
dangerous territory, dog. Because if like there can be people who can enjoy a shit ton of weird stuff,
Exactly.
but then is it okay?
Yes. Is it?
Whoo! See, that's like depends on the nature of the crime, man. I mean, dude, I've been watching like a lot of documentaries these days on Netflix, and bro, people are weird. They like weird shit. Like some people
Like
just
killing animals unnecessarily.
Oh, nice. The
Yeah, I see what you did there. But shit, I mean, yeah, I guess, you know, might not be the best, but animals are tasty, man.
Sure.
I'm sorry. They're just
but some people think humans are tasty. So there we go again, right? Cannibalism.
that's
And so what,
Yeah.
but
you know what? I would genuinely love to have this debate. Can I like do a little more research and shit? Because I just saw that I came out to get some like bananas and shit.
At least it was bananas.
Yeah, banana. I got some eggs too. So.
Ah, well, that's a shame.
But yeah, dude, I would honestly like. I'm stumped right now. I where you're coming from, you got the upper hand. I'm stumped right now. Don't got nothing to say.
Yeah.
So, shit. I mean, yeah, that's where I am right now. So.
Sure. Okay, well, what I'd love to do is give you some resources so you can look into it in your own time as
Yes,
well.
sir.
But I think the important thing to recognize is just because you enjoy something doesn't mean it's okay, right?
Maybe, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's true. Maybe, like, what if you're a bully and shit? You know, you like to bully people, that's not okay.
It's not okay, is it?
And
But they could say, well, hey, you know, what a circle of life, nature is cruel, other animals do bullying things to other animals, and I like it.
Shit, yeah, you know, that's a perspective of thinking about if you enjoy something, is it okay?
Yeah.
That gives me something to go home and think about.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
And you could see someone punching someone and go, hey man, don't punch that person. They go,
I enjoy
you're stood
that.
on grass right now, and grass is alive too. You know, so there you go. The logic
Yeah.
that we use doesn't always make sense, right?
Yeah, it gets nasty. Good stuff. Good. That was an interesting talk, man.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I would love to write down some resources. Have you got notes or something on your phone?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you
That's
so
quite good.
much, dog.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate
So
it.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, and then you too, likewise. And it
yeah.
was
Let's
yeah.
see.
Gave me something to think about when I
glad.
go home. And
I'm glad
like,
to hear that.
Dude, that's what life is all about.
Absolutely.
Taking a new perspective.
Absolutely.
You know?
It is.
Learning every day, because you gotta be 1% better every day.
Absolutely
You
right.
gotta be the different person that went to bed.
Absolutely
But
right.
Good talk,
So
guys.
nice to
Thank
meet
so
you.
much. Yeah.
Have a great life, my friend.
Hey, you too, bro.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
I think I should. Yeah, this. That's that was a good video. I feel like I had a lot of things to talk about in that video.